Careful what you say or you'll get tickled.
All right. We are live. What's up, Donna, Bob, John? Good to see everybody. All right. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I'm doing good.
I could have swore in that opening this time I heard "Don't brush your teeth."
I did not change it, so
I don't know why I heard that.
Must be an EVP.
Did you brush your teeth before you started the show, so you're a little primed there, Tim?
Yeah, maybe.
I do actually.
There you go.
Okay.
Science.
I have fresh breath.
Yeah, it's for your co-host.
Of course. Yeah. Practice that next week when we see you. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, next week is going to be fun. Next week, yeah. I'm excited. It's the first time the three of us are going to get together in person. It's going to be fun. All right. So we have a topic tonight. The topic, I'm in charge. And the topic tonight is, well, it applies to next week. It's applying the topic is about conferences and basically approaches to people at conferences by people like us. When we have questions, we have, we want to see good evidence. We want to question the evidence or challenge some evidence. And I thought it might be a good exercise to just go over, different approaches that we have, how we might approach someone that's displaying, I'll put it in quotes, evidence, and we might not think it is, and how to approach that topic, how to approach people that you don't like, or, what to do in that situation, how to deal with people that approach you that you do not like. So basically, I'll just slide right into my short opening statements here that conferences are coming back, and I'm seeing a lot more on social media because things are opening up, restrictions are getting rolled back, and for the most part, those of us that got vaccinated and are not bullshitting people and pretending we did so that we don't have to wear masks, things are opening up again, and we're getting out there. So next week is phenomenology, and the three of us are going to get together. We're going to broadcast from the conference, do our show. We're going to be interacting with people, and of course we're going to be asking questions because there's going to be ghost hunting teams there, there's going to be psychics there, there's going to be celebrities there that we might want to walk up to and say, hey, what do you got here? Or if they have ghost hunting equipment out, we might want to know how that works. What's this do? And I think it's okay to ask. It's really, I don't see any problem with it. I don't see anything wrong with questioning what they have. And that's pretty much it for my opening statements. I mean, I'll pass it on to, I'll pass it to Dave.
Yeah, I agree. Conferences are coming back. You're seeing a lot more of them. People are able to get out and about and do things. So there's going to be a lot more of them. And quite honestly, boy, I haven't gone to a lot of them in the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years. I've gone to 2 in the last 10 years. Well, 3. 2 of them being I think it was the Battlefield Bash back in the day. We met Kenny out there at one of them one time, and Tim was out there as well.
Yep.
So we went to that one, and then I think since then we've gone to one other one, and they haven't changed a lot. Just kind of reaffirmed my reasons as to why I don't go to the normal paranormal conferences. That's not to say I won't pick it up again and do more of them. I mean, obviously, I'm coming out this weekend to attend one, but yeah, it can be interesting. You can learn stuff. On the other hand, we used to run conferences. We used to have a big conference. We used to go to a lot of them, and after a while, I'm going to be honest, I got sick of it. It was the same stuff. And then it got to be the same people. And it was a whole lot of preaching. And it wasn't really at the time, and this may have changed, it wasn't really a discussion, an open forum to make presentations and ask questions. Because I remember one conference we went to way back in the day, and there was some tech guy from one of the TV shows, one of the big TV shows, and he claimed he invented this piece of equipment and the software, and somebody from our group's like, yeah, we've been using that for like 2 years now. You didn't invent that. Oh, well, what I meant was I programmed the piece of equipment. Yeah, that's the software that came with it. That was kind of the tipping point where it's like, boy, I don't know. And anytime you question somebody, you were the asshole.
Yes.
Especially one of the para celebrities. You were the ass for questioning things. So I don't know. This will be an interesting show for me because it might help me next week to not just turn around and say, "Hey, Tim, Kenny, good to see you for a while. We'll meet up with you during the show." But yeah, there's ways to interact with people and question people, and I'll go over some of that. I've had that in various work experiences, and obviously with the paranormal. So we'll see what happens. Looking forward to it. This will be a good discussion.
Tim.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Dave. Like, I haven't been to one for a long time. I think the last one I went to was at the Unity.
Para Unity, yeah,
that we went to. We stopped by, and I can't remember if that was in New Jersey or Pennsylvania.
Jersey, yeah.
But in all honesty, like I like, it's good to meet people and listen to their ideas. For me, I'm kind of like Dave as well. It's like, you go, you really hope some things have changed, and things on the surface seem to change, but the basis of what they're built on doesn't seem to change a lot. But I really like meeting the people. Like, it was really great. Should I say it? Not the celebs. I got shunned by one, but apparently my tactic of asking a question was not well thought out, I guess. But meeting the people was wonderful. Like, there are some really nice people, and I really enjoyed meeting those people. But I look at it as it's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to get a new feel of like what's out there, what people are doing. It's just good. It's a lot of things that can knock a lot of the rust off for me. So I'll learn a lot of new stuff and talk to a lot of people. Hopefully, make better friends or some more friends. So we'll see how it goes.
Or lose some.
I like going to conferences because it's yes, I agree, Dave. Like, it gets boring. Sometimes it's the same shit over and over and over again, especially when they have their talks. And sometimes they're just talks. Sometimes they're labeled as lectures. But for me, like, a lecture is supposed to teach me something, like really, learn me. And when you go and you hear the same shit that you hear on TV constantly, that's not teaching anyone anything. It's just rehashing the same shit. I think my main purpose, well, I have two purposes. The one is to, and I think Tim touched on this, to see what people are thinking. What are they doing now? I try to keep up on trends, but without interacting with these teams, especially over the last year or so, where you haven't had that physical interaction, it's nice to get out there and talk to them. And that way you get that one-on-one where it's like, all right, you think this? Okay, why? Why do you believe this? Why do you think that? Talk to me about it. And it's a kind of a polite way of cornering them, because if you're online, it's real easy to just see a message and be like, well, I'm just not going to answer that. And that's it. There's nothing else you can do. Or just ignore a comment. But when you're there in person, it's like they're standing there on their side of the table, that little 8-foot table, and you're on the other side, and you're like, why do you think this? And I mean, for the most part, they have to talk to you. They're forced to talk to you, unless it's like a situation, where Tim's involved, and then they just walk away from you.
Just walk away, like
so. But I that's my main purpose, is to learn what people are thinking, why they believe stuff, and to see what they're putting out there. And then the second thing now, and more recently, is because I try to set up my own booth and, put that beacon out there saying, yep, this is the token skeptic right here. You want to come ask questions? You want to talk about stuff? Let's talk. Let's just be nice. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I don't disagree with you. I mean, there's definitely advantages to going to see what people are thinking and what they're doing. And, a lot of it, the last recent one I went to was not too far from here. It was Antioch, Illinois. So it took us like 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get over there. And it was the main reason we went, though, is because it was another couple people going to be there that we were working on a research paper with, and a project and a paper with, and they were tied to the guy that I'm co-authoring a paper with, and they were going to be there. So we thought, well, we'll go and talk to them and see what's going on, which was great. That was a real productive interaction, but it wasn't quite as productive, or the talks weren't quite as productive, because you're looking at people who they did present some new techniques and stuff, but as Tim said, the foundation and the basis and how they think and why they're doing it, it's still incredibly flawed. And I gave a talk at that presentation, or at that conference, and it was about looking at like our 15 years of data that we've collected through data logging and surveys and all that. And while the room was full to begin with, it started to empty out after a while, because you start getting into, well, this is what people have said. We didn't find that in our data. And then you go through and show why you didn't find it. And it, to me, it was fun, I guess, but it was still a little disappointing that the field is still stuck where it is. But if you want to go and understand what people are doing, it's a great way to do that. Conferences on a professional level, I go to a lot of them for work, but that's a whole different thing. And one of the points I had on here on my notes was, what type of conference is it? What are you going there for? Is it a scientific? Is it a general association? Is it a gathering? Is it a trade show? Is it a meet and greet? And I think a lot of these paranormal conferences tend to be more of a meet and greet with vendors and people meeting para-celebrities, and they get a couple people to talk about different things. And you can get an idea what's going on in the field, but really, again, I'd rather go to the more scientific ones at this point.
That's a great thought that you brought up there. It's because when you go to these paranormal conferences, even though I enjoy going, I absolutely love going, mostly because of the people. But you're right. It's often a cross between a meet and greet and a craft show. Because you get a lot of crafters, and I'm not knocking crafters, so don't yell at me, Donna. I know you're listening. But you get a lot of people.
Office today.
There's jewelry and different crafts, and T-shirts and stuff like that. So it's a regular like bazaar kind of thing. And then you have a lot of these ghost hunting teams or paracelebs, and it's like, oh, we're this group, we did this on YouTube, or we did this on TV. Come meet us. And you see the tables full of pictures of themselves with autographs and stuff like that. And there's very little learning going on.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're totally useless, and people do enjoy them. They love going there, and that's fine. Go have a good time. But I think for me personally, my intent and the reason I'm going to a conference is a lot different than a lot of the people I see attending these conferences.
Right. And there's a big difference between science conferences and these kind of I've been to science conferences, and I understand where the problem, like when you described, Dave, when you started doing your lecture with all the data and everything, and how the room started to empty, I can see that, because I think the paranormal community is more, and this is going to sound probably mean, but they're more entertainment based rather than the science and data driven based, where like I go to a science conference, I know I'm going to get a lot of stats, I'm going to get data, a lot of information, and I'm prepared for it, because I like that. I love that.
What these other people are doing when they give talks, though, they're presenting themselves as being scientific.
Yes.
And we use the scientific method. We collected data. We analyzed. It's like, what? So,
right.
I don't know. I know you're going to have to bring your sign or whatever you have for the Calm Down Dave next week.
I want to have a big poster board of that.
Just get your butt in that dunk tank, buddy.
But I get it.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. Like the conferences, the lectures, you have people doing these talks on topics that they have very little expertise or genuine knowledge in. And this might be stereotyping. I might be generalizing here too. But most of the ones I've been to, the people that are presenting, they don't have that good baseline background knowledge or background qualifications. They are talking about their ghost hunts, or I can't tell you how many people get up there and lecture about photography, and they barely know. Like I raise my hand and I ask a question about an SLR camera, and they're like, "A what kind of camera?" And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me! You're giving expert advice on photography, and you don't know what those 3 letters mean? Like, you need to know this. It's basic photography." But anyway, all right. I don't want to get too far off and just bitching about conferences, because I do like them. I do love going. I love, especially when I get to participate. It's really fun, because I hope that I get to give out some good information. But
don't worry, Donna. I'm going to have more than one drink before I show up.
We're going to have a full bar underneath my table.
Perfect. Rum break.
Right. So I guess for me, and I'll just start going through some of the notes here. Rule number 1 is my Patrick Swayze rule. No matter what, always be nice. Really be nice. Be the guy or the person that's polite and respectful and professional, no matter what. Because if you're going in there, because I've seen it from both angles. Like, I've been that kind of aggressive person, and I've also seen those aggressive people coming towards me when I'm sitting at my booth, with that angry face, with that full steam ahead kind of walk, and they're ready for a fight. You don't want that, because that sets the tone right from the beginning. That sets it off as in you're confrontational, you're angry, you just want to fight, and it's not going to go well, no matter what. I'd rather go up, someone, introduce myself. Don't play games. I don't say a different name, or I just say, "Hey, I'm Kenny Biddle. Do you mind if I ask you a couple questions?" And we talk. Stay positive, stay professional. And once you set that tone from the beginning, I think people are always going to be, or mostly going to be, open to it, open to talk to you, open to have a discussion. Even if you disagree with them, if you stay polite and professional, I think it will maintain that conversation and keep it going for the distance. So, all right, I'll pass it off. What do you, comments, questions?
I like the be nice. I mainly because regardless of, or for me, at least my point of view, not necessarily agreeing with what someone's doing, or how they're doing it. Like, I'm sure that we could have a discussion and a debate about what they're doing, but in the long run, I think it'd be much better to disagree with someone and have still a good connection to that person.
Right.
Just because there might be future questions that you would reach out to them. And that's not an impossibility, I don't think, at least for me.
Right.
So I like keeping the bridges. I like building the bridges. I like the respectful banter and questioning. I like that. But for actual questions, even though it didn't quite work for me, using the help me understand is a good
Yes.
question. I think it places, it helps at least release some of the burden of an attack by accepting some of the weight of not knowing what's going on. So if you can say, help me understand how this works, or help me understand what you're doing because I don't understand. I think that's a good opening to allow someone to explain what they're doing or how they're doing it, or their method that they're using, or the techniques and the equipment and why the equipment, what have it. And then during that conversation is a good place. That's a good stage to have follow-up questions. And I kind of think, I think that's good questioning and allowing yourself to say that you don't understand what's going on. And I think that sets a more, what's the word I'm looking for?
I kind of think, I don't know if this goes in with it, but it kind of sets you up almost in a subordinate kind of role. And you're not trying to be the alpha male or try to fight with another alpha. Like you're saying, help me understand. And by doing that, it's like, hey, I'm seeing you as someone that might know what you're talking about. So explain it to me, help me learn. And I think that's a really good approach.
Well, I mean, and the truth is if someone's saying, I have this machine that talks with the dead, I mean, I really don't I don't know how you're doing it. So in all honesty, please tell me, I don't understand. Tell me how you got that conclusion. Tell me how you tested it. Tell me how you did everything, because I really want to know. And I was going to say something like a subordinate position, but I think that's a good explanation. But also, you're not trying to crash above them. You're not trying to crash on them by taking a superior role to them.
Right.
And I think once you come across to somebody as trying to be superior, or at least an aggressive, it places them on defense, and they answer defensively rather than trying to educate you.
Right.
Yeah, I think it helps to keep it not personal. So when they show you something, you can even consciously try to keep words like you, your, they, me, I. If you keep it neutral like that, and you focus more on what they're showing you, or let's say they have a picture they're showing you, I mean, you're going to have to ask them, what were the camera settings? But that seems like a nuance instead of saying, what were your camera settings? Because it's always trying to, then you almost get to a point where you feel like they're being attacked. But if you just say, what were the camera settings? Keep the personal part out of it. And that's something they advise you to do in any type of discussion that might end up confrontational, is make sure it maintains and stays on a neutral, or gets to and maintains and stays on a neutral ground. Now, Kenny, you said something, I believe, like, don't come in there with the attitude or, I know everything. However, you should be able, when you start questioning them and ask them to understand things, you should be able to provide them with some idea of who they're talking to. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And not that you're, oh yeah, I've been doing this for, the typical 20 plus years paranormal person
combined.
But just saying that, I've had an interest in this for a while, or I've done some work in this area, or I specialize in photography and know a lot about photography, because you do want to set that level of getting them thinking without making them defensive or uncomfortable.
Right.
Because
I agree.
You don't want them to, because who knows, maybe like they do or we do, they might roll up and think, who's this ass who's coming to talk to me and asking all these questions? Who's this guy? Who's this girl? They don't know shit. So you got to establish a little bit of your experience and your credibility, I think.
And I do. I that progresses. It's more like you get through the introduction phase, because I don't want to come out with those guns. Like, that's not my intro. Hi, I'm Kenny Biddle. Yeah, I've been doing.
Yeah, no, you don't want to come out with it, but you might want to show that, or at least at some level, through the conversation, make
Yes.
points, and show that you do know what you're talking about.
That actually, it's in my notes a little bit further down, but I'll just get to it now. But yeah, if I'm talking to somebody, like if they have a photo album out and they're displaying pictures that they think are ghosts, and I come up and I ask, like, hey, introduce myself, and what am I looking at here? Can you tell me what we're looking at? Very friendly. That's good. And they start talking, and I say, well, do you mind? Can we talk? Would you be open to like alternative ideas?
Yep.
I do have a background in photography. I've been doing it for 20, 25 years. I do know a few things. Would you mind if we discuss this a little bit? And that's how I really try. I mean, I used to, honestly, to be fair, I used to be a dick about it. I'm like, wait, you think that's a ghost? No. And then I would be a little bit more smart ass, which I did find over time was not the approach to take.
It helps to try to lead them down the path and have them make their own conclusion, or at least have them question themselves. And that's a hard thing to do, to get your role as the questionnaire. You're questioning people, you're asking them things, and it's difficult to make them think that they're kind of leading the conversation when you are trying to lead them down a path, at least to think about what they've done. And that's why it's good to ask questions like, how did you do that? What did you exactly do? And then go into that typical 3 deep questioning where it's like, why? And then they tell you, well, why did you do that? Okay. Why do you think you got the result you did? Okay. Why do you think it can't be something else? Or can you explain, have you thought of any alternatives? So the more you drill down and keep asking, now some people are going to get pissed off and walk away because they don't like to be questioned. They just want to be confirmed and just say, hey, that's a great piece of information, or that's a great piece of data. Good catch, bro. Way to go.
Good catch, bro.
The thing I think you almost have to ask up front is, if we're going to engage in this conversation, is it going to be an open back and forth conversation? Do you really want to hear my opinion? Or are you just looking for me simply to validate what you have?
Right.
Because I'll be honest, I'll just come out and say, I'm not going to validate it.
Right.
I couldn't in the 5-minute conversation we're going to have. I'm here to understand it and talk about it. We're not here just to go, yeah, good job, man. That looks like a scary ghost smoking a joint, based on the video from Kenny's show.
Oh my God.
With the incense burning. And it's funny, I did see that. Side note, I did see that pop up on Facebook from another group, and I see both JD and Kenny commented on that video already. But anyway, it's things like that where it's like, I just want to establish we're going to have a discussion, and you're not just looking for me to affirm what you already have there.
I think
what you think.
I try to read the people, like read them as I'm having a conversation. I mean, you have to listen. And at one point I wanted
that's the main thing. You got to listen. The big thing is listening.
Yes. You have to listen to what they say, and don't listen and get a point and be like, oh, I can't wait. As soon as I'm going to jump in, as soon as I hear a break, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to start talking. Because then you're not listening. You're just waiting for your turn, and that's not a good conversation. So I do listen to what they say. If I can, if I'm sitting down at like my own booth, I have a notebook. I write down points that I want to come back to, but I'm still listening because I want to hear them out. And I do explain like who I am, what I do, but trying to read them to see, okay, are they going to be open to this conversation?
Right.
When you start seeing the signs of them like doing this kind of thing, because I've seen that before, or if they, if they pull a Zappis and just turn around and walk away from you.
He didn't even ask me. He didn't even respond.
I'll break off a topic here, but that I probably would have handled differently. And because if you were having a conversation and I ask you a question, and if you don't know the answer, then I will respect you if you say, look, I really don't know. that's cool. But if someone just outright turns their back on me and walks away, I'm going to be that guy. I just I'm going to admit it. I'm going to be that guy. I'd be like, don't turn your back on me. I asked you a question. Why are you walking away?
Tim should know better than to question the godfather of the paranormal.
I'm lucky, I guess, with the name like the Godfather. I'm lucky I'm not sleeping with the fish.
The ghost fishes.
Ghost fishes.
I
remember the question. I
Decapitated paranormal doll in your bed.
I remember the question I asked. And it was just, he had just talked about how spirits and demons and evil things attach themselves to objects. So I asked them, I asked him, I was like, what, like, do you know, or what is the mechanism by which one attaches itself to something? He just like looked at me and turned around and like walked away. I don't even think it was a hard question.
That's just rude. That's just outright rude. And I remember you coming right out because I was watching. I was watching it. And you walked up to me and you're like, he just turned around and walked away. We weren't done. We were in the middle of a conversation. It's like, holy shit, he did. He just walked away. But yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, that annoys me. That really annoys me. There's few things that like set me off. And like one is if you put words into my mouth, if you misrepresent, I hate that. Yeah, write them down, Dave. Get me fired up.
Because I'm going to use all of them at one time.
If we're having a conversation and you continually cut me off, you get 3 tries. The third time you cut me off, I will say, fuck you. This conversation is done until you learn how to talk back and forth like an adult. That's it. Oh, God. My wife has seen me freak out with that. And I call people out dead center. But this kind of thing, if you just walk away, I don't think that's ever happened. I mean, most people, as they walk away, I get like a fuck you. So I know the conversation's over. And that's good. I'm good with that. That's fine. But just to walk away without anything, no. I would walk after you. And I would continue the conversation. So, all right. So we have a question from John. Has there been a physical fight at an event you 3 have been to?
No.
No, there has. I mean, it's been close, and I have to admit that it was me. It was me, because Mr. Roundtree had showed up to a conference. Actually, I think it was the last Phenom. It was called Phenom Reunion. And it was a couple years ago, and he showed up, and me and him do not like each other at all. And it almost came to a fight. But then I saw how old he looks, and I didn't want to be accused of beating up an old man. So
elder abuse.
An elder, yeah. So it didn't. Even though I was told by several attendees that they had collected enough bail money for me. Which was nice. I mean, dude, that is like the biggest compliment. And that's why I love phenomenology so much, is because I'm the token skeptic that shows up. But so many of those people were willing to take a collection up to make sure I can make bail to beat the shit out of someone that they didn't like.
That's good to know, Tim, because they got that covered. So you and I can just sit there and drink his rum when he disappears.
Yo,
that's right.
Yo. Pet peeve number 4, don't touch my rum. Oh, no.
Did he say rum or bum? I couldn't hear him.
Keep it up. I'll Vicar you again.
Dick.
All right. So, oh, I can't wait till next week.
It'll be fun.
All right. So, I guess moving on. Another thing that I have is when a ghost hunting team, because I'm specifically talking about ghost hunting conferences. So that was kind of more the theme that I'm going with. When a team has evidence on display, how do you approach that? And we've already touched on it a little bit, but I would say that one of the first things I do is ask nicely what you're looking at. Like if pictures or video, like, hey, excuse me, what am I looking at here? Can you explain this to me? And same way with audio. Like if it's audio from a video clip or just audio that you listen to, I would first listen to it a few times before they prime you, and then, ask again. And if you can explain it, and this is where I deviate, I have two things, two responses to this. If you can explain it or, debunk it, don't grandstand. If you're standing in front of their booth, always remember that you're at a conference. The people behind that table paid to be there. They paid for that booth. They paid a lot of money for it. And don't be a dick. Don't make them look like a fool, just to grandstand, just to make yourself look great. I always ask. Huh?
That's a good point.
Oh,
that if it gets to a point where it might be getting heated or controversial,
right,
you might want to suggest maybe we can privately talk about this kind of offline later.
I usually
That's a really good point.
If somebody, because I've been in this situation before where I'm looking at like a photo album or something, and somebody I know walks up and they're standing next to me and they're like, hey, what do you think of this? And it's like there's other people next to us. The people behind the booth are right there, and everybody hears that question, and it's like, all right, well, I can give an explanation, but it might make them look foolish. If it's especially it's something simple or it's something that I picked out, and it's not because I know everything, it's because I just have experience in this. And if that's the case, I usually look at the person in charge or behind the booth and say, are you okay if I offer another explanation for this? And that, for me, that kind of shows respect to them because it's their booth. Again, if they don't want you to, if they don't like you, they could probably say, well, I'd rather you not. Okay, cool. And then I'll walk away. Whoever asked me the question, I'll, come on, talk to me over here. We'll walk away from the crowd and I'll explain my answer to your question. But if they do say, no, go ahead, still remain nice, still remain polite and professional. Don't say something like, well, whatever dumbass took this photo wasn't paying attention. You don't want to say something like that. You want to just, explain it. What do I see in this picture? What do I see in this video? I see this. I see lighting over here. I see shadows. I see blurring. I see blah, 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 all this stuff, and do it in a nice professional manner. And if people have questions, ask them or answer them as best you can. So that would be my take. And this, let me see. Checking my notes. The whole paid booth thing doesn't apply to celebrities. Just want to make that note there because they usually get the booth for free. So, but I still have the same courtesy. It's not. I'm not going to, grandstand in front of them because they just usually because it's a celebrity. Doesn't matter what I say. Even if I'm right, I'm still going to be wrong because people are there to see them. So, all right, passing it on. Dave?
Tim, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. For somebody that's presenting like a claim or evidence or data to back up a claim, one thing that helps me kind of prompt a conversation, I ask, what is the level of confidence that you have that it is what you claim? So I won't necessarily begin the conversation with, I don't think, that's what it is. I just say, how confident are you it is what you say it is? And I think that is like a nice little move to make them have to consider on the spot, am I so confident that I'm going to say 100%? And if they say 100%, then that opens up a whole other door to other questions.
Right.
But if they don't say 100%, I think that shows they're open to discussing alternative hypothesis that could be something else. And so I go by how my responses, my questions next will be which way they take the conversation. And if it's something either way, if it's like 99, 100%, I'll just say, how confident or what did you do to rule out every other possibility? And again, it's when you ask a question in a total, for me anyway, I think when you ask a question, when you say, how did you rule out everything else? I don't think everybody, even people that Dave will probably be able to understand this, but I don't even think, actual scientists that rule out the possibility of every single thing else. It's just that with the information that they have, the probability of something leads to this, but it doesn't make it conclusive. But it's something that we can go on right now with the information that we have. And I like those type of answers better than it's a ghost. And it is because I say it is, and you're an asshole for questioning it. I like that. So starting off with, I want to feel how confident that the art is, what they claim, and how they ruled out everything else.
There's a question for you, Tim.
I've never had anybody say they're 100% confident. I haven't. And I think I don't want to, say that's a bad thing, or the reason I ask that is I just think when you put a question to it that way, I think most people, everybody I've asked has never said they're 100%, because I think at that point they know if they move that chess piece into the I'm 100% sure, then they're going to get really hard questions. And when they have to say I'm not 100%, then I hope, like I saw some people in the chat, introducing seeds of doubt to begin a conversation is just one of the ways to begin a nice conversation. I could be wrong. I mean, we might look at what you have and I might come to a very similar conclusion that you have. But I have to know how confident you are. And then if you're like 99, 100% or 90%, like I want to know how you got there. So listening to people take me on their thought process of how they got to where they're absolutely so sure what they have is what they're claiming, is a way for me to begin and think about how I'm going to continue a conversation and questioning what they have.
I think that's like a signal. That should be a universal signal. When you ask, how confident are you in that? Even when you say politely, that should be like a code phrase for anyone. Like, oh shit, this is going to be a conversation. He's got more questions. This is going to be a difficult conversation. It's not going to be easy peasy. Just rattle off some bullshit and someone's going to walk away. This is going to be engaging, and I'm going to have to pay attention to this. That's a warning for all you people out there. Oh man.
Yeah, the first thing I'll go through is kind of the who, what, where, when to explain that. And then you get into, I think it's called convergent thinking, where you get them to explain things like what state relationships, compare, contrast, and ask things like why, how, in what way does that work? How does that work? Why do you think that happened? And then you can get into the next level, which is really predicting, hypothesizing, and inferring. So you start saying, okay, suppose or predict that if this is true, or if this is what you think it is, then what would happen in this situation? How might this happen? Why? How might it happen in the future? What other evidence do you think you would, data you would come up with that would support this? And then get them to start to evaluate it. Get them to figure out how to value it, judge it, defend it, justify, and ask questions like, what do you think? Why do you think that? What's your opinion on that? So it's almost like a process you take them through. Define the basic characteristics, then explain it, then get into the predictive nature, which is hypothesizing, and then evaluate it and try to do the defend and judge and why they think that, and maybe get into their opinion and then how they might collect it and do things the same or differently in the future.
I've done something similar like that, where I usually ask, like if we're talking about evidence or even experiences people relate, and they associate it with a paranormal cause. In the conversation, I usually try to say something like, well, let's just think outside the box here. What non-paranormal reason could you come up with that might also explain this?
Yep.
You know, and that's something I've done for a couple years, where it's just like you're saying, it's putting the burden, and it sounds mean, but it's putting the burden back onto them, where it's not necessarily just being mean. It's saying, hey, let's go down this path together, but let you lead the way. All right, you lead our way down this other path. Let's see, what could you come up with, you know, that's not related to a ghost or a demon or, you know, what have you. And it's a good exercise, because if I start giving reasons, then it's just an outsider, you know, a different person coming in and just giving, oh, there's the skeptic, you know, giving skeptical reasons. So it's much better to get you guys or somebody else that you're talking to come up with the ideas and explore them. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, actually, one of my notes that I had here for later on, you kind of, when you said bring them on board and, you know, kind of get them to run with you, was at some point, you know, even after, if you're hearing a paranormal claim or you're talking with people, that regardless if it's a claim of, I have this evidence of a ghost or a demon or whatever, or I have this piece of equipment that we've developed that should capture, you know, X. In discussions, I think once you have someone kind of rolling in a discussion, I like to ask, you know, kind of in a fun way, you know, have you ever considered ways to test it?
Yes.
And then I ask that question rather than have you tested it? How have you tested it? But have you ever considered it? And then you can just start throwing out ideas, and hopefully they'll kind of jump on that, and you can throw out like a purposefully really vague, poor idea, and then let them take that idea and say, you know what would be better if you did this, and you're like, oh my God, you're right, that would be better. And then, you know, you can like let them have the idea, and once they have the idea, it's more likely that they'll be on board with a discussion of how to test it. So now they have this. And even if they say, yeah, we have tested it, how did you test it? And you go into that, you might say, is there any other ways? You know, have you considered this way? And I'm a huge fan of doing testing, even though I'm sure I've thought of nothing that is perfect and full of imperfect ways, but I'm a fan of, I would rather do it and try it and have it just absolute shite, and let someone else look at it and go, yeah, that is a bad idea how he did it, but I see a few ways that he did it wrong, and maybe I can, you know, I would rather do something horribly and then let somebody, not that I always want to do something horribly, but I'd rather fail at something than not try it at all, and then have somebody later look at what I did and failed and go, well, I see what he did wrong, and I think I can improve that. I would rather have that than never an attempt at anything at all, if that makes sense. And I think other people, if you can talk to them through that they will feel the same way, or at least get on board with trying something.
All right. So how about we take our commercial break?
Okay.
And then we'll meet back here in about 2 minutes, and then we'll move on. We can finish up this part of the topic and then move on. I want to talk about equipment and testing equipment a little bit. So let me say commercial. There it is. All right. So in 3, 2, 1. All right, we are back. Good timing. Change my shirt, representing.
Nice. I didn't know we were supposed to do wardrobe changes.
Well, some of
Kenny
us.
just took it to a whole nother level.
There you go.
Damn, easy there.
I'm gonna have to do like background changes now.
Yeah, carry your computer
Or we
to another room.
We could
You're
start
lucky I'm
doing
not
changes in the
Wearing
background,
my Scooby-Doo ascot back there.
Nice.
which is really cool, actually.
It is. I might bring it the next weekend.
You got Scooby, the ascot would be
Just like a white polo shirt and the orange ascot.
A fanny pack and an ascot. There's going to be people talking, Kenny. A lot of people talking.
They will remember.
Is anything recreational legal in Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Well, then I could be Shaggy.
Pull up in the van, open the door, and smoke just rolls out.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, geez, that's funny.
All right, so we were talking about getting people to go down a journey with us and lead the way. Any more to that, Dave?
Yeah, just another way to just a couple questions I would ask.
Sure.
Asking for more data. How did you know that? I don't like to say you, but how does the data lead one to that? I mean, it's hard to phrase that. I think about it. It's like, damn, that's a hard way to
I
take
get
that
it.
out. I mean, it's tough.
You don't want to offend them because you don't.
No.
You're right. When you use you or something like that, it's putting it right on them. And sometimes in conversation, you'll see me like I'm kind of looking around, and I'm not like lost. I'm thinking, how do I put this without making it directly at that person?
Yeah. Couple more. What data is that claim based on? Can that be put another way? Help me understand. Of course, we've talked about that. Then trying to do a linking or an extension type thing. Is there a connection from what that data says compared to other data that people have collected? Or how does it compare to, let's say, a skeptical interpretation, somebody who doesn't believe?
Right.
How do you compare and contrast that? And then you can get into, cause and effect, that if you think this caused it and that was the effect, what other things could be causes that would lead to this effect? It's basically the same thing you both have already talked about. It's just, how do you verbalize those questions without getting somebody offended?
Right.
And defensive posture? Because once they're in a defensive posture, it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be struggling to regain that conversation from that point on.
Right.
It's true.
And that's the importance of approaching it in the ways that we're talking about, because you don't want to put someone on defensive on the defense. I mean, granted, I think it might come up a little bit. They might have that idea with the type of questions, because the type of questions that the three of us ask are not typical at these kind of conventions.
But they're the kind of questions that need to be asked.
Yes.
And if they're not going to be asked, then pack it up, go home. Don't ever say you're trying to collect data to prove ghosts exist, and don't say you're scientific and you use the scientific method. Because if you're not going to answer the simple questions that we're talking about tonight, I mean, you know what? Fine. If you're there to have fun, to ghost hunt, go out and have an experience, that's great. So just kind of know, though, if you're going to present data, that there's going to probably be three assholes like us asking questions.
And next weekend, there is definitely your chances of three assholes is 100%. Because we're going to be there. Oh, man. But I agree. I mean, it's always been my kind of philosophy that if you set up a booth at one of these places and you're representing your team or your idea or your TV show, what have you, you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
So you should be willing to answer questions, and you should be expecting people to ask you easy questions and hard questions. ones that you're not going to know the answer to. That's just, I mean, that when I set up, that's my thought. Like, here I go. When we do this show, sometimes, and we take questions, I don't know what people are going to ask us, but we're putting ourselves out there, and we're giving honest answers. We don't know, we say it. But I think people need to expect that. They need to be ready for it. And especially if you put a fucking vinyl banner up behind your booth that says, "We use science to investigate this." Oh, you're advertising the shit out of yourselves, bitches. It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
I got
3 tortured assholes. That's funny.
Oh boy. So another scenario that comes up. Well, we already talked about the Zavis scenario. I actually have it on my notes, the Zavis scenario. But we already really touched about that. But something else I want to touch on is if there is someone there that you don't like. There's always going to be people that you don't get along with, or that you see and you're like, maybe it's someone that you've seen on TV and you just absolutely hate them because of how they're portrayed on TV. Maybe it's someone that you have a personal beef with, or interaction with, and it didn't go well. How do you handle that? And I have at least two options. The first is that if I think it's going to like blow up into a scene, like an argument and stuff, I simply avoid them. Why bother? This is not my event. I'm either attending and I'm just an attendee, or I have my own booth and, I'm going to worry about my own stuff. I'm not going to worry about causing a fight. However, option 2 is if there's something that needs to be said, or approached, then I'm going to do it. But again, I'm going to fall back on the Patrick Swayze rule and be as nice as I can. If there's someone there I don't like, and I hear them passing along bad information, I might interject and just say, look, I'm overhearing this. I wonder if I could just say something. I don't know the exact scenario, but I will try my best to be polite, but say what I need to say. And that really doesn't happen much. But I do come up to people that I know don't like me, and I'll try to bury the hatchet. I'll try to be nice and say, hey, I know we don't see eye to eye, but at least we can be civil. You want a beer, you want a drink. Can we just sit down and talk? So I'll try to do that. But if it doesn't work, still be nice, because honestly, the whole killing them with kindness thing, it's beautiful, man. It really is. If you can be so nice, there's nothing that pisses off your haters more than you being polite and courteous. And like, even when you get up at a table and you're like, hey, I'm going to go to get another drink from the bar. Anybody need something? You point directly at the person that hates you. Goes, you all right, man? You good? Can I get you something? Oh, that fucking pisses them off. And I love it. And you can walk away with a big smile on your face. So there you go. What about you guys?
I think, just being nice, being kind and professional. Like I think at some point you can confront a bad idea or what you believe is a bad idea or opinion or a statement of fact that you don't agree with or believe and want to question. Like, I think you can do it. It's probably going to be more difficult with somebody that you have an emotional dislike for. But it can be done. At that same conference that the Godfather turned his back and walked away from me, I don't dislike him. Like, even after that, I don't dislike him. Like, I don't even know him. Like, he might be an all right guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I consider that unprofessional and disrespectful to do that. But I don't hate him for it. But there was another group that's on a television show, and I won't mention it, but I absolutely despise that show. Like, I have an emotional tie to it, that I can't, like, I think that they, for reasons of in my opinion, I don't know this for a fact, but in my opinion, I think that they torture families at the end with grotesque and overly blown claims of horrible, terrible things in their home just to get them to have a fear reaction for television. So much so that I question even if they're actual people, if they're just actors doing that part. And they were at that same Unity thing. And I remember like looking at the line going, "Oh, I'm going to go talk to them." I'm like, I'm going to do it. Like, this is that line. I don't know. Do I want to wait that long? And just, I kind of did what Kenny's number one recommendation was. I just stayed away. I mean, there was probably nothing good that was going to come from it. So,
right.
I just stayed away.
It's difficult because there are some, and I know the show that you're talking about. We've had conversations about this many times, and I understand. And there's that urge, like I want to go up to these people and be like, "Why do you do this to families?
Yeah.
Like, do you realize what you're doing? You're being unethical, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not an ethical committee, but I think you're causing more trouble. You're causing more problems than solving. You're not solving anything, as far as I can see. But yeah, you have to resist that urge because you're at a conference again. There's a lot of people around, and you will come off looking like that crazy guy. You really will. You will be, because, like you said, I mean, celebrities are the draw, to a lot of these conferences. That the TV people, the personalities, they're the draw. People come to see them, and they get in line, and they wait in lines that are ridiculously long and pay extra money to get autographs and pictures with them. So when somebody like us comes up and we're unknown people, we're no names, and we just start spouting off like, you're doing this to people, you look like the crazy guy, and you end up on TikTok as a video, or YouTube as a video. Like, look at this crazy fucker going off on a paraceleb.
Yep.
Yeah, just keep it professional. I mean, hating someone, that's a pretty strong term. I don't know if I necessarily hate anybody. I, like you said, Tim, I don't know these people personally. There's one or two I might know personally that could show up, but I mean, it's not the place or the time to act like a child, I guess.
Yes.
You're going to come off looking a lot better. Your points are going to be taken more seriously if you maintain a professional disposition and kill them with kindness. Yeah. Be nice to them. There's no reason to start a scene at a conference, and you can have a talk with them. And I think we talked about this already. If there's a long line of people and you're going to go up to their booth and start railing on them, not the time or the place. Pick that battle somewhere else if you want to have a real heart-to-heart. But yeah, it just shows you to be the bigger, better person. And no matter how right you are and how much information and how much data you have, the moment it gets emotional and you get into it with somebody and it's not professional, you're going to lose all your credibility. So it's not even worth pursuing at that point. So yeah, I mean, I think most of us with our professional careers and work, you always have people you're not going to get along with that you work with, but you have to work with them. So through years and experience, you just learn certain tricks of the trade on how to do that and how to deal and interact with people that you may not necessarily agree with or really like. It's not like you're going to hang out with them socially. So you're in a professional setting. I know we talk about the paranormal conferences, but honestly, it's a professional setting. It should be, at least as far as how you conduct yourself and what you say and do. So it's all part of this overall thing called emotional intelligence. The more you know about yourself, the more you know how you react to things and how to control your emotions in situations like that. It just makes you look a lot more credible and a lot more professional.
Right. I like that. That's great. It is a professional setting, even if it's a paranormal conference. And I saw the smirk on your face when you said it, but yeah,
but it is.
It's because I always see paranormal conferences not as like something to really learn. Well, let me take that back. I don't see it as like a place where you go to lectures and you get educated. I do learn stuff, and that's from talking to the different people, getting the beliefs, and then collecting little data like that. I mean, and sometimes I carry a clipboard around with me and I have my little checklist of like, oh, what equipment do people use? Still use? What's popular? What do they do? Why do they believe that it works? And I start writing notes. So I collect my little data, and it's a learning experience for me. And speaking of devices, there's often been times where I walk by a table and it's nothing but ghost hunting gadgets, like the entire 8-foot long table of different gadgets that are vacuum formed or 3D printed or battery operated, this blinky light things all over the place. And it's always fun. It's a what is that called? A guilty pleasure to walk up to a table like that and say, "Oh, what do you got here?"
Yeah.
And not only that, because that's easy. Answering that question is really easy. It's the how does that work? That question is the one that gets them all the time. And I stress this because that goes into what we were talking about before with like starting this journey down this path of realization or something like that and letting them take you or lead you. Because when you ask, how does that work? 9 times out of 10, in my experience only, they don't know.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay. So that leads to other questions. And again, keeping it nice. Why do you use it if you don't know how it works?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know like what you're getting is real? And that leads to a conversation. I don't try to accuse. I try to have a conversation. And I can use one anecdote. A couple of years ago, we were at Penhurst Asylum, and it was a conference, and we were set up. And I just happened to be at a ghost hunting table, and I was looking through their stuff. And one of their members came back, and he had a bag, and he's like, "Dude, I just got this," and I forget the piece of equipment, but he just bought it, and he was so excited. He spent $200 and some on it, and I was like, "Oh, so how does it work?" He's like, "Oh, well, you turn it on, and it detects ghosts." I'm like, "Yeah, but how?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm not sure." And I don't know if I came off like snarky or something, but it was a gut reaction where I was like, "You spent $200 on a device and you don't know how it works? Like, you think that was smart?" And I didn't say it sarcastically. It was more like, I almost felt like father to son kind of thing. Like, do you think that was smart, dude? Like, you shouldn't have bought that. And luckily that conversation went good because he actually stopped and he was like, "Well, shit, you're right. I don't know how it works." And we got into it was like a good hour-long conversation. We're like, "You spent a lot of money, dude. How long did it take you to save up $200 to spend on this toy? And you don't know how it works. Has it been tested?" Because that's another thing I bring up. Has it been tested? Like, what kind of like consumer report testing has been done where it does what they say it does? Because there's not. But you ask that anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'll leave it at that. Comments. What do you guys think? Dave, start with you.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with questioning equipment, how it works, why it works, how does it detect a ghost. I do that a lot. I love that too. I like to explore and ask questions about those things, or the data they get from them. How do they interpret it? How do they analyze it? What are they doing with it? There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know. I guess I don't know if I would ask somebody, do you know how it works? Because I can guarantee you probably 8 out of 10 people you grab from the street, if you ask them how their microwave works, they wouldn't know that either.
This is true.
So maybe to me, I would maybe ask, did they explain to you why it does what it's supposed to be doing? Put the owner on the person that sold it to them instead of, to me, I think, shit, I can't, I know my microwave has something to do with radiation. That's about it, though. But most people don't know how it works. So that's to me, that's kind of no, of course I don't know how it works. But maybe just ask them, did the person who sold it to you, did they give you any information or any insight into how that works? And then, you talked about it not being tested. There's no consumer reports, which, my brain's thinking, ooh, paranormal consumer reports brought to you by the Three Tortured Souls. Whole nother idea we can flesh out later.
Writing that down.
Wait a minute. Oh, yeah.
I'm like, ooh, I like that. So you could give them ideas on, they just blew $200 and nothing makes you feel shittier than spending money and you just got screwed out of $200. Or do you say, you know what, if you bought it, I can't, let's say it's a piece of equipment we really know, well, most pieces of the equipment you buy at those places, they haven't been tested. Maybe you can say, I don't know if it detects ghosts or not, but here's some ideas on how you might want to think about testing it. And it'd be really interesting for you, me, and the entire paranormal community to kind of see what you come up with. Because then you haven't wasted your money.
Right.
And to me, yeah, the equipment's not designed to detect ghosts. We don't know what ghosts are. But on the other hand, the argument back of, because we don't know what they are, we should be testing things. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Then lead them down a path of how to do that and try to turn them into a contributor of information and understanding to the field instead of a parrot of what's on TV.
Right. And you know what? Carol's got a question that kind of I want to get into a little bit. She's asking what questions use for the radio box things. So like the ghost boxes and spirit boxes.
Spirit boxes.
And I mean, I was looking at that question as you were talking, Dave. I was listening to you and it kind of clicked where one of the things that you can do to test such a piece of equipment is, at least for me, is put that device in a Faraday box, like a really good one, not that cheap bag shit that you get online, because it doesn't work. I've tried them. It doesn't work at all. Like any radio that I have went into the bag and it still picks up radio stations. So it's not working. But I built one that blocks AM and FM, and I've tested the shit out of it to make sure. So that would be something that I would ask, like, hey, if you can get a real good Faraday box, block these signals out, now put your spirit box in there. And if it gives you some kind of answers, I'm going to be impressed. I'm really going to be impressed. But that would be something I would offer.
We all know the ghosts cannot fit in that small box, Kenny.
I made one that's big. It's big. It's
coffin
huge.
Sized.
It's made out of 2x4s. It's like 3 feet long by about 2.5 feet wide. It's a decent size. You can fit in there.
Okay. When I'm a ghost and I'm a little orb, I'm sure I can fit in there. It'll be fine.
There you go.
There's a way to test that thing, though. Like Kenny said, the Faraday cage. That's one. Second one is write out a protocol of what you're going to do. Ask one question and then allow X number of seconds for an answer. Do not repeat the same question 18 times in a row, regardless if it's in a Faraday box or not. And then you're probably not going to get an answer, anything you can understand at the time. Then ask another question, a different question, give it the same amount of time to answer. And then you take that and send it to, 4 or 5 people. Remove the questions, cut out the response time periods, send it to people, see if they can get back to you with a consensus of what they think they hear. And then that opens you up to be able to do all kinds of statistical analysis and contextual analysis, because then you could get another person to look at it and say, okay, this word that, let's say 3 out of the 4 people you asked to review it heard, 75% agreement, that's pretty good. So then you have somebody else look at it and go, okay, here's the question. Now, does that word or does that response fit within the context of the question? Yes, no, yes, no. And then you've generated a whole ton of stuff that you can analyze. The whole key, though, is to actually get a response to a question in a Faraday cage. which we were in Gettysburg one time at the Gettysburg Hotel, and we were with somebody, and they had one of the spirit boxes. I like the SB07 or whatever the hell that thing is. And we were on the top floor. Oh, wow, lots of answers. It's talking to us. Got in the basement. Wow, the ghosts are quiet. Like that's because the radio stations don't reach down here. So yeah, I mean, if you did that experiment, you were getting responses in the Faraday cage. It was vetted. They were agreed on by people, and it was within the context. I'd be pretty interested in that.
I used to hear the phrase, well, ghost hunting's like fishing. Sometimes they bite, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're quiet, sometimes they're not.
There's a difference between sitting in a boat with one worm dangling off the hook as opposed to going into the lake with a lot of specialized equipment and a bunch of scientists trying to collect a large sample and then analyzing it appropriately.
Well, yeah. I had an idea when you were talking about have somebody listen to the answers to the questions and then giving that to another person. It would be great. And I don't know if you included this, but I had just had this thought. Once you have the people that collect the information, ask the questions, get the information, then you separate them, then you send the alleged responses to somebody else. And they have whatever they hear. And then I would take the responses and the questions and send them to yet another group of people to see if they can match the answers to the questions. Just that might be a little overkill, but it sounds like it'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
I like that.
Especially if it was questionable about, there could be an answer that could fit the context of a couple different questions. That isn't
true, like blue.
Yeah.
I'm not going to comment.
All right. Last topic I have is angry people, dealing with angry people. And the scenarios are more or less if you get into a debate with someone and it becomes intense, where I've gotten into discussions that turned into big debates where people started yelling or they get emotional and angry and they start shotgunning or machine gunning topics at you. They don't stay on topic. They give you, what about this? What about that? What about this? Can you explain this and this and this and this? And they overwhelm you with kind of topics. And when you try to respond, sometimes it's hard because you start responding to one and it looks like you only could answer one topic and there's like 15 that you missed. And then they roll over you. There's that situation. And then, I'll just address that one. From my experience, again, it goes back to be nice. Patrick Swayze is my idol when it comes to going to conferences. It's always comes back to that. Be nice, even if they're getting mad at you for things that you're saying. Be nice, and if they stray off topic, if they go off the topic of discussion, bring it back. As soon as there's a pause where they're waiting for you to talk, say something like, "Well, you provided a whole bunch of topics. We actually started with this topic. Can we finish talking about this one first before we move on to the next one? Can we resolve this one first?" And then I immediately just go into addressing the original topic. That keeps the conversation where it belongs, and it has the added benefit of pissing them off because you called them out for them trying to machine gun you or get you out. I think there's a logical fallacy name for that. I'm not sure, but you kind of
gold star for Kenny on that
one. And then I'll just roll right into the other subcategory for this is that if you are the one giving a lecture, if you're up on the panel or what have you, you're speaking and you have somebody that raises their hand or they have a question, which is cool, but they want to ask you a question. They don't accept your answer and they keep pushing because they have an answer in their head and they want you to verify it for them. And I've been in that situation before where people have asked questions or like, what about this? And I give an opinion and they're like, well, no, what about this? You know, what about this? Well, and they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. I usually give it like 2 freebies. And then the third strike, I'm usually like, you know what? I don't think whatever I'm going to say is going to answer your question. So I'm going to move on to another question. I stay polite, and especially because you usually have a crowd. There's usually a whole bunch of people that are watching and seeing what's going on. But in those kind of scenarios, I usually figure out, like, I'm not going to answer this person's question. No matter what I say, it's just not going to work. So I'm going to end it here, and I'm going to move on to the next question. So I do it politely and respectfully, but that's how I deal with angry people. At least that's how I deal with them now. Tim, what do you think?
Well, I guess it depends on like how angry. Like if they're extremely, if it looks like it's a hostile situation, I'll just. I mean, I think at least I haven't got to there. I don't think yet, but my gut reaction would be just to call out the behavior that I see and identify as just stating it, that this looks like it's becoming a hostile or an aggressive conversation, and neither one of us are going to solve anything under those circumstances. So it's best we reconnect with this discussion at a later time when we're both at a better state. I think calling out the behaviors and identifying the behaviors that are counterproductive to the debate or the discussion is good for me. When you were talking about the multiple questions, that's exactly what I do. And one of the ways that I deal with that, so it's a visual, is if I have a notebook, I will literally take the notebook while they're shotgunning different topics and just start jotting down the topics. So when they say, what are you doing? I'll say, well, you bring up some very interesting topics for later, but we were talking about A. So once we get this down, if you want to talk about these later, we can, but right now let's finish with one before we move on to the others.
Right.
And I think that's good. I've done that on the stand. It was received okay by some and not okay by others. So yeah, that was a bold move that was just 50-50. But anyway, it worked. It got the point across. But other than that, if it's an aggressive, for me, I would just call out, I would state the obvious. I would state that this looks like it's in a position where neither one of us are going to have a productive conversation at this point. And I think that both of us should walk away, come back later when we're at a better spot, and continue it. And if they do, especially if somebody just comes at me aggressively, the next time that we would have a conversation, I would, for lack of a better word, I would lay down some rules that we both would need to agree to. And that would be to, at any point we start to feel aggressive or hostile, we just need to walk away. And number 2, we need to stick at the topic at hand, agree not to waver from that topic, and just lay some ground rules. And so that we have them and can, and for both of it's like a contract. Right. Contracts are good that for both sides and can come back to the topic at hand.
Dave?
Well, my first comment would be, keep it up, asshole, and you're going to get vickered. And then I'd go from there. No, just kidding. I think if they're getting upset, my approach would be, and maybe it's just where I'm at with the field, I'm going to be like, I'm thinking to myself, this isn't worth getting upset about, seriously. And I would try to divert and maybe throw out a question that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. That's totally off topic. Like, hey, wow, did you see that booth over there? Or, whoa, look at that shiny light. That's a proven technique to break tension, actually, in communication strategy. that, and maybe just take a break and say, hey, let's take a quick break. Let's talk about this maybe a little bit later when we've had time to think about it and get back to it. Because quite honestly, I'm at the age where I don't need any more people upset at me, or especially about something that, this is going to sound bad, but it is what it is. It's a hobby for most people. It's an interest for me. It's a serious interest for me. It's not my career. It's not my profession. I love doing it. And I just don't see any reason to have somebody getting all upset and pissed off about something. Mm-hmm. So I think I would just take a break. That's just me personally. That's how I would deal with it. And then the person who's asking you questions when you're giving a lecture and they're shotgunning it, I agree with everything you all said. Bring them back. I'm not going to write down anything. I'm just going to stick to the point. I mean, it's basically make a point, ask a question, let's address it. And then at some point, and I've had this happen, you say, okay, let's just circle back to what you originally asked. I don't think I've made myself clear, or maybe I can state it a different way, or maybe or maybe you can help me understand a little bit more. Because I think what they're doing when they're shotgunning is they're getting frustrated and they feel like they're getting backed into a corner and they're just trying to throw everything out. Right. And at a certain point, if it just keeps up, I think the polite and appropriate thing to say is, I think we're going to have to maybe agree to disagree on this one. And out of respect for the rest of the people that want to ask questions, I'm just going to move on at this time and we can talk afterwards.
Right.
That's pretty much what I would do.
Good point. So Bob's got a question. It looks like it's more for me, but since you guys are going to be there this weekend with me, we can all give our 2 cents. How do you plan to handle your booth this week? You can't walk away from an angry person in that case.
The hell you can't. You put the close sign up, grab a drink, and sit down.
Yeah, I mean the front of my booth, it's the exact mock-up of Lucy's stand from Peanuts, the psychiatric stand, and where it says the skeptic is in. The in is a box that comes off with Velcro, and I can turn it around and it says out. So I will do that in front of the angry person and be like, out, and walk away. I can literally walk away.
Careful, Kenny. As you know, it only costs $25 and one form to get a concealed carry on that state.
I'm not worried.
Yeah, Tim and Dave are standing in front of you. What the hell do you?
Exactly.
I started saying
for me to get away.
Dave and I are running. We're like security. So,
but I mean, it's.
No. He's back there. That's what I'd say. Just go ahead.
Kenny, you want Kenny? Yeah, right over there. Here, let me lead you.
Yeah, he's right there.
But I have no intention of walking away though. If an angry person is there, it's. Again, it goes back to be nice. I'm going to be nice, and that's either going to piss them off even more, and they're likely going to leave on their own because they're going to be so mad at me. Or being nice is going to diffuse the situation, calm them down a little bit, and we're going to have a conversation. Of course, there's number 3 where, Dave's scenario, the concealed carry, and that's it. That's all they wrote for Kenny.
Obviously kidding, making it.
But no,
I think you should get your dowsing rod things out and say, "It's the first time these things have ever worked." They're pointing to an asshole.
Beep 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 beep. Wow, that's the asshole alarm. Okay, so but yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna leave. I'm gonna talk to them. If they're angry about something, my first question is going to be, what are you upset about? What is it that has you this pissed off? Let's talk. Tell me what it is. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Maybe it's something that I did do and I didn't realize it. And if I did, then I can apologize at least for it. And we can move past it. Or maybe you just are wrong. And, and we need to discuss that and figure that out. Whatever the case, I'm going to attempt to talk about it. And if it gets really bad, or if somebody comes up to me and says, hey, where is that Kenny Biddle guy? And they don't recognize me, I'm going to be like, well, I'm pointing at Dave or Tim. Like, there he is, right there. That's him.
And then as soon as they walk up to me, I doubt it. I don't believe a damn word you say.
Oh man. So yeah, there's no walking away. It's you deal with it. I have no problem.
But you also have to be a little bit forceful. If it's your booth, you paid to be there. You might have other people that want to talk to you. And yeah, you can say, hey, I'm sorry if something I said upset you or something I did upset you, but can we maybe talk about this later? Give them some time to cool down and just say, hey, can we talk about this later? I got other people that are wanting to talk to me, and hopefully there's 2 or 3 other people there. Otherwise it's I got 2 or 3 ghosts here waiting to talk to me. But you got to diffuse the situation, and it is honestly, it's your right, it's your booth, you paid for it. You don't need to sit there and get yelled at.
Right.
And if they're being totally belligerent and they don't walk away, there is an appropriate time to not be even confrontational or mean, but to be firm with somebody. And we've all probably had it happen where you have to say, hey, I get you're upset, but I need you to just kind of walk away right now.
Right.
Just please. And we'll talk again later. But I'm not going to let somebody sit there and freaking just keep yelling and railing on you for no reason. I mean, there is a limit to being nice.
Right.
Even Patrick Swayze had a limit. It was be nice until it's not time to be nice.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it's not like you're going to start a fight, but you could even talk to whoever organized the conference and say, hey, can you give me a hand here and distract this guy? I mean, I don't want him to not come talk to me, but I kind of need a little bit of a break, and I think they do too.
Right. And that is the option. That's the last option. As well, the second to last option.
I'll bring my cards.
You're in the yellow zone, buddy.
Oh my God.
Slow your roll.
I can see Tim just stepping in just real quick.
You're out.
You're in the yellow zone. That's the last warning. Next one, you're out.
Bob with the priceless comment. Now I'm picturing the scene from Airplane where people are lined up to smack the person.
As long as you put money donation in the can, in the donation can that I'm gonna have. See, that's my other response. Like, if you're gonna stand there and start yelling, as soon as you start yelling, like, I'm gonna lift the can up that says Cancer Research Institute. I'll be like, you gotta put money in. You can stand there and yell at me, but you got to put money in.
I like Tim's cards. That would be classic. Yellow, red cards.
And just real quick, Carol had the question about what about my stalker? That guy has not been heard from in a while. Since the last time I actually brought it up, he's disappeared. So I haven't heard from him. I haven't seen him. So I doubt there's a chance he could show up because he is within driving distance, easy driving distance. So there's a chance, but I know what he looks like. And honestly, I'm not going to go into details, but I made some preparations. I've carried out some things to ensure that he probably will not show up. So
careful. Jen had a stalker for a while, and then we thought the person disappeared, and out of the blue, 6 months later, whoop, there you are.
Well, we'll see. If I see them, I'm definitely going to point them out. And that's a situation, because if that gentleman would show up, that's a serious concern.
There's no tolerance for being nice or dealing with it and being friendly. That when you think there might be an issue and safety's involved, that's a whole different story. That's
something I would go directly. And luckily in this case, I do know the organizers. And most of the time when I do attend a conference and I participate, I do know the organizer. So I would go directly to them and say, look, this guy, he's a problem, and like a major problem. So you might want to boot him out.
Tim, do you think we're ever going to get to the status of Paraceleb Penny to have stalkers?
I had something for you here, Dave. Oh, here it is, right there. I had it off to the side.
Dave. I mean, we're actually quite lucky, if you really think about it, that we get to hang out with Penny Biddle.
Oh wait, here's Tim's. Now I can bring them together.
Maybe I can get a selfie with him.
Oh,
he's dreamy.
Fuck you.
He's cute.
I hope he wears that ascot.
I'm gonna take it with me. I'm gonna uncover Leia's boobs, and then I'm definitely gonna have it with me. There we go.
Well, nobody's looking at you with your ascot now.
There you go. Right there. I'm gonna sit at my booth just like this. What's up, man? How you doing? All right.
Oh boy.
So I think that's all the topics that I wanted to cover. If you guys have any more notes,
Nope.
no.
Exhausted. My notes.
Tim, anything else?
No, you went over everything.
All right.
That I had. Yep.
So we'll hit. We can do closing statements. Dave, why don't you go first?
Okay, to sum it all up, I'm going to give this another go because I'm going out to the conference, spend some time there and hang out with Tim and Kenny, see how it goes. But for me, it's just understand and set your expectations. Go there knowing what it is and what to expect. And if you're going to interact with people, be nice. Don't make it personal. Ask questions and try to lead them down a path that maybe they'll see things in a different light. And I'm sure they're going to try to do that with me as well, which is perfectly fine. And if you have somebody who just keeps at it, be nice, take a break, walk away, get back to them, tell them we can talk later. And there is nothing wrong with taking the high road, remaining professional, and at the end of a conversation saying, that's fine, but I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree. And that's not a bad thing. That's how progress is made in certain fields and in science and others. You agree to disagree and move on and try to do things differently or better in the future and get back at it. So it's all about being professional and interacting with people. So enjoy. I'll be there. I'm gonna have fun regardless of what happens.
Tim, you're up.
I'm going there because it's going to be a kick-ass time with you two there. Hopefully a live show from there will be absolutely great. If we're all still sober. I'm looking forward to going and just meeting people and hopefully making new friends. And I hope that I learn something while I'm there. I guess if it's possible, we could get questioned. But following through that was exactly what Dave said. I mean, just be professional. I'm certainly not beyond telling somebody, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So, maybe that's something we can work on together. My goals are just to have a good time. I don't think, I'm sure, I know there's going to be a time I can't pass up somebody making a really big claim that I'm going to do some of that. But I'm not going to go there to, I wouldn't go there to call someone out or be unprofessional. Now if somebody's like that, at a training that I do, we do trainings now that COVID's over, my trainings will kick back up in October. I have faced some of the questions in the situations, although no one's really gotten violent in my training because they need my training, to continue. But we do get questioned quite heavily. We get questioned a lot.
Tim's drunk when he starts doing that.
I almost made it the whole show. Fuck. So yeah, I'm going to have a good time. I'll bring my Irish, the hell. What the hell am I drinking? Jesus. I don't know. I drank the whole pot, so
Oh, Jesus.
I'm going to have a good time. So I look forward to it. My main goal is seeing you guys. I want to get a selfie and maybe an autograph from Kenny. And have a great show. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope to meet a lot of people there and make new friends and learn new stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right. So to sum up my part, exactly what these two guys said. I mean, it beautifully. And I want to make it clear there's no intention of causing trouble. Like, this entire show was just to demonstrate like how we would approach things, how we would approach these scenarios, so that we're not promoting people going out and being aggressive. Not at all. We're trying to show like this is what we do. We want to learn. We want to understand. So that's what this show was about. Be nice. That's the overall theme. Just be nice. Be nice, polite, professional when you're dealing with it with anybody at these conferences. Doesn't matter if it's a paranormal conference or a science conference, whatever. That's just what you do. You be nice. You're there as an attendee. You're trying to understand what's going on, what people are trying to convey, and you want to learn something. Have conversations, not fights. I'm not going there to fight. Like, no matter what I say, even though we joke around sometimes, and I do say stuff like, oh, I can't wait to see everyone, even the haters, even my haters. That's more in fun. That's in jest. Like, I know there's people that don't like what I do, and that don't like me personally, but I'm not there to fight with them. I'm going there to have a good time, to hopefully maybe impart some information that I know to help some people, and to learn some stuff from other people that are there. I'm going to go around and talk to everyone. I'm going to have conversations. Don't make enemies. I'm not out to make enemies. I'm not out there to have someone leave that conference going, fuck that guy. I'm never going to talk to him again.
And yet, here we are. It still happens.
That's how we all got started here. But that's basically it. Like, I'm going out there to meet people, meet new people, meet you guys, to hang out, for the three of us to hang out for the first time ever. So anyone's watching that can make it, come on out, because this would be
awesome.
Yeah,
absolutely great.
And that's about it. So hope you guys enjoyed the show. And really, the only announcements we really have to make is that next week we will be in Gettysburg. All three of us will be in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. We will be doing our show live from there. I'm going to bring my whole setup here, and we're going to have shit set up all over the place and just broadcast.
Are you bringing your weeping statue? I see Carol's asked that 3 times.
I am not. No, okay. I'm not going to bring that. I'm going to bring, because we have an 8-foot table. I don't sell anything, but my little skeptical help booth where I sit at, takes up, almost half the table. And then the other half I use for flyers that have information about like logical fallacies, scientific method, good investigation methods versus bad, and stuff like that. And then the other part is testing equipment, like the dowsing rod thing here. This will be set up. My remote viewing box will be set up. I have a pendulum tester. I have a talking board / Ouija board tester that I'll have set up that people can try and play. And that's just to, again, demonstrate how some of these things may work, or how they're used. So I don't do too much else. The statue would be, it's more of a novelty for us. I'm not going to bring it because I don't want to chance it getting broke, because it is a porcelain statue. So I don't want to chance that. But I might actually do something at Fort Mifflin later on where I'll have a bunch of stuff set up, but we'll see. That's down the road. So, all right, guys. So I guess that's it. And again, everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good time. And we will see you live together next week. I'm so excited. All right, we're out. See you later. See you later.
Confrontations.